Good afternoon, everyone. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All
Good
right.
afternoon.
Hello.
All right. On behalf of the Delta Sigma Theta, on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority in the Jackson, Mississippi Alumnae Chapter, we would like to welcome all of you. You are in store for a fun and exciting and informative night. Let me remind you that you did sign up for this When They See Us, Historical Black Colleges and Universities campaign. So it's going to be very, very exciting. And I must say, it's going to be somewhat competitive. So that I know there are a lot of you that you have your person of choice or president, should I say. And I know you're excited to see them and we're prepared for you. So let me formally introduce myself. I am Shirley Tucker and I am the Mississippi Social Action Coordinator for the dynamic Southern Region chapter of region of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. I have the pleasure to host this whole hour with these dignitaries, so I am equally excited about this opportunity. So Jackson, Mississippi Alumni Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority understands the culture, history, and impact of HBCUs and the critical niche that they fulfill. We know their assets, including the strong relationships, the successful alumni, local and regional economic impact. So tonight we're hoping to display that so that you'll learn more about it so you can become more engaged and understand your role and how you can have a personal impact on the lives of the HBCU participants. The historical Black colleges and universities are essential pillars, as we all know, in driving impact and social change. And to be successful, we all know that HBCUs must engage all society members, including faculty, staff, alumni, students, parents, and other close constituents. So involving these groups will, at a minimum, as we know, satisfy the need for inclusion. So again, I want to welcome all of you here tonight, and you will get a chance to meet our dignitaries in just a minute. So let me say, I'm going to introduce our 5 standing presidents here in the state of Mississippi. These ladies and gentlemen are very well deserving of being here tonight because of the tremendous work that they do in the community. And so you're going to hear a little bit about their backgrounds. However, their bios will be displayed in our chat. And so their links will be displayed in the chat. So you'll have an opportunity to learn more about them. So at this time, I'm going to introduce them individually. And I know for those of you who support your schools as alumni and friends of these organizations, I know you're going to flood our chat. So our technology department, we are ready for it. And so we're going to cipher through your Q&A if for some reason you include it in there. But again, we want you to represent, if in fact you're president or your person of choice on the line, you do go ahead in that chat because we know we couldn't stop you if we wanted to. So first, let me introduce our first president. That is Dr. Felicia M. Nave. She is the 20th president of Alcorn State University. And I must add that she is the first female president in the school's 150-year history. We also have Mr. Thomas K. Hudson, the I love. He is the 12th president of Jackson State University. I love saying that, the I love. We also have with us representing Russ College, Dr. Ivy R. Taylor. She is the 12th president of the Russ College. Dr. Carmen J. Walters is Tougaloo College's president. And last but not least is Dr. Gerald Briggs, who is the 8th president of Mississippi Valley State University. How about that? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we're going to hear a good bit from you in just a little bit and more questions to follow. Right now, I would like to ask each one of you to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes to tell us any pertinent details about your respective school. And I'll start with you, Dr. Nave.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Ms. Tucker, for this opportunity to be here with this distinguished panel to talk about the great institution, the Mississippi Educational Treasure of Alcorn State University, for which I have the pleasure of serving as the 20th president, and I am also an alumnus of the university, so I can speak firsthand to the significance of our great institution and the impact that it has on educating the citizens of the state of Mississippi. Alcorn is celebrating 150 years of of being around and educating and having a significant impact, not only on the state, but on the nation, and educating African American scholars who've gone on to do exceptional and innovative things. Alcorn is the oldest historically Black land grant university in the country and the second oldest institution of higher learning in the state of Mississippi. Alcorn is the land grant option for Mississippi, and we serve a significant purpose both in educating the citizens, but also in serving the community through our agriculture and extension programs. We are over 3,000 students representing nearly every county in Mississippi, 34 states, and 23 countries. We are the home of champions and scholars, where we say knowledge and character matters. So again, it's indeed a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to engaging with my colleagues and talking more about the significance and the relevance of HBCUs now and in the future.
Thank you. Dr. Hudson? Mr. Hudson, excuse me.
Well, good evening, everyone, and it is indeed my pleasure to be here representing Jackson State University as the 12th president of DI Love. It is my pleasure. My name is Thomas Hudson, and I'm also a JSU graduate, class of 1999. From our humble beginnings as Natchez Seminary 144 years ago to our present-day designation as Mississippi's only comprehensive urban university, Jackson State has really been at the forefront of challenging minds and changing lives, improving the daily station of African Americans throughout our history. From our impact on the culture through our athletic programs, the Sonic Boom of the South and the J-Sets, to our great academic and research profile designated as a Carnegie R2 High Research Activity University, Jackson State remains relevant and on the front lines of improving the lives of all Mississippians. So again, I thank you for this wonderful opportunity to engage with you all today and to just talk a little bit about the relevancy of Jackson State and all HBCUs right here in the state of Mississippi. And I look forward to also interacting and hearing from my colleagues across the state. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Briggs?
Good afternoon, Ms. Tucker. And let me first begin by just saying to all the women of Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated, definitely I appreciate this opportunity to share some good words about Mississippi Valley State University, the educational oasis in the Mississippi Delta. We indeed are an outstanding institution. We were founded in 1950, so we're the youngest of the institutions, HBCU institutions here in Mississippi, but also one of the youngest HBCUs in the country. But still, we're doing outstanding things and supporting not only our region and our state and our nation as well. Outstanding students that we call our Valley Scholars. Again, really focusing on assuring that they have a quality education here at the university. We have an 8-word vision, and that vision is one goal, one team, one valley in motion. And that one goal speaks about student success. That one team is everybody working together for that student success. And that one valley is school pride second to none. We love us some Mississippi Valley State University. Absolutely. And in motion means just that we're being strategic, we're not being stagnant. We're really focusing on building and growing our institution and really continuing to be an integral part, not just here in the Mississippi Delta, but the nation as well. So again, I'm looking forward to the conversation with my colleagues. And again, thank you very much for having me and having us.
All right. Let's hear from you, Dr. Walters.
Well, it's so tough to follow these great women and men leaders. I'm ecstatic to be on the call. And I do want to echo what my friend, Dr. Gerald Briggs talked about, which is congratulations to you, Delta Sigma Theta, for doing this work. We're excited that we have a chapter on our campus and they're very active. And we're excited that we have colleagues on our campus who push your mission forward every day. So thank you for doing this. And Tougaloo College was founded in 1869. So we're 152 years old. We're a private, historically Black liberal arts institution with a focus on STEM. We have athletics on our campus, but we tell everybody that Jackson State is our football team. that school across the street. So we kind of support that. Our students support that. We support all of our historically Black colleges in this state and in the region. That's a part of Tougaloo's DNA. Tougaloo focuses on not only liberal arts but social justice. That is our red thread. That's what sets us apart from most schools in our region. We are well known for the civil rights movement of the state of Mississippi passing through Tougaloo. And we still have that same mission today. And so we are focused on social justice, we're focused on STEM, and we all are aware of the data that shows most of the African American doctors in the state of Mississippi attended Tougaloo College. And most of the African American lawyers in the state of Mississippi attended Tougaloo College. So we believe the UNCF mantra that we are punching above our weight in this arena. And we do that with the support of all of these institutions. Most of our students, if there's a graduate program at one of these institutions, we are directing our students to those graduate programs, since 70% or more of our students go on to professional or graduate schools. So we're excited to be a part tonight, excited to partner with these great leaders, and excited to partner with you tonight and have a great discussion.
All right. And Dr. Taylor.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And yes, I'd like to start out by thanking my sisters of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for providing this platform to highlight all the HBCUs here in the state of Mississippi. Well, Russ College is the oldest HBCU in the state, having been founded in 1866. We also describe ourselves as the most prestigious, though I dare say my colleagues on this platform today might challenge that assertion, but that's what we call ourselves. We're located in North Mississippi, about 35 miles from Memphis, Tennessee, in the quaint town of Holly Springs on a beautiful, lovely green campus. We are a liberal arts institution and United Methodist affiliated. Our rich history and legacy dating to the days after slavery to also involvement in the civil rights movement serve as continued inspiration as we fulfill our mission to equip and inspire students for excellence and service in their communities and throughout the world. We're very focused on ensuring that our students make an impact in their communities when they leave here. Our attentive faculty and our supportive staff create a family-like atmosphere here at Russ, where we're committed to the success of every student. And let's be explicit, success for us means graduation and employment. It's an exciting time to be part of the Russ Bearcat family, as we're initiating many new partnerships like the 3+2 engineering program that we just rolled out with the University of Mississippi, where students can attend Rust for 3 years, get a degree in math, and then go up the road to Oxford to Ole Miss and get a degree in engineering as well. Those type of innovations are what we will continue to do as we make improvements that will help our students to thrive and succeed.
Awesome. You all are doing incredible work, and we're so proud to call you our HBCU leaders in our community. So thank you again. We're going to hear a little bit more from you in just a minute, but right now I want to take a point of privilege to talk about our purpose. Education disparities and inequities is one of our national social action priorities, and the Jackson, Mississippi Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority aims to raise awareness about HBCUs in the state of Mississippi. Their importance to the African American community provides a safe place to learn, grow, empower students, and encourage a motive to reciprocate giving back to an instrumental institution in their lives. So our fundraising goal is to raise $100,000 by May 31st, 2022. And this is to make a real difference in the lives of the students at our HBCUs in Mississippi. So we aim to raise awareness about HBCUs and their importance to the African American community. And we rely heavily on donations. We know that you do. We know that we rely on donations to implement your missions, our missions. So again, donations of any size will help ensure Mississippi HBCUs fiscal stability to thrive and survive on the foundation and purpose of our schools. You have, and I want to say to all of you on the line that are here to support these institutions, you have the option to select which institution you would like your donation to go to. Or you may select general fund, and that will split the total dollar amount between the 5 HBCUs that are represented here tonight. And so at this time, we'd like you to drop the fundraising link in the chat. So throughout the night or throughout the evening, you have the leisure to donate to these fine institutions. And so again, thank you all for being a part of this and donating at any amount. So we appreciate that. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start our dialogue. So there's just a couple of questions I'm going to direct to each of you. And so the first question I have to ask, and I know you've talked a little bit about what your respective institutions do, and we're excited to hear about that. But we want each one of you, if you could, to tell us, why do historical Black colleges and universities matter? And I'll start. You can do either one of you if you want to attack that question. I appreciate it.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. At one point in time, HBCUs were really the only option for Black people to receive a higher education. And when all those others said no, HBCUs provided that opportunity for us to really elevate our station in life, pursue professional careers, and earn terminal degrees in a safe and holistic environment that also kept us connected with each other and our culture. And that part cannot be minimized. The ability to elevate your station, receive that higher education degree, and stay in tune and connected with your culture and people like you. And we continue to do that even to this day, while also, in addition to those goals, being a vast contributor to the world's economy. And when you take a look at numbers, participating in landmark studies, producing, as Dr. Walter said, the majority of your African-American doctors, your lawyers, contributing to the needs of the society and the state. Just recently, I saw a graphic that talked about the 50 most in-demand professions in the state of Mississippi. Pretty much all of those are STEM-related professions. HBCUs contribute to solving that issue, that problem, by producing the most African-American PhDs, diversifying those very important STEM fields, and really keeping that talent right here at home, helping to make a difference right here. So again, HBCUs have always been relevant. We will remain relevant, and we matter more than ever as we look at what we contribute to society.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, President Hudson. And I just would like to add that our African American students are the value proposition to the world. The world is becoming more diverse. They're looking for Black and brown students, and we are producing those students at record numbers. When you think about what the public and private HBCUs contribute every year, with students who are graduating and going into the world of work, going into graduate work, we are graduating more students than some of our PWIs. And it's because of our culture, Dr. Briggs. It's because of the amount of touches we provide. It's because of how we understand the parents who are bringing these students to us and what their needs are. And we understand the communities that these students are coming from. So we can provide the wraparound services that they need. So I agree wholeheartedly with Dr. Hudson that we are needed more now than ever, especially during the George Floyd era. And our students want to talk about the tough topics. They want to experience this culture that we have, and they want to be a part of the solution, and we provide that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go ahead and add that in addition to some of the things that were mentioned by my two colleagues on educational and community impact, just the cultural and value preservation. At HBCUs, Black heritage, history, and cultural expressions are part of the institutional fabric. And that's part of how we're able to support our students because they feel connected to the institution. And then, of course, just the fact that the schools have been responsible for creating much of the Black thought leadership, political leadership, and social leadership means that they're still relevant.
Good, good. And definitely, I think everything that's been said is right on point about the importance of, and why we do matter, as we've mattered for hundreds of years now, and really making a difference in our communities. And particularly as we look at today's fabric surrounding social, economic, and racial concerns, it's important that we understand the importance still of education and knowledge, and really the value that the HBCUs are providing in those areas, really continuing to make a difference for our communities, making a difference for our state. And again, it's just so important that we've mattered for a long time. And as we talk about now, the relevance and importance continues to be there in light of some of the things happening in the world today. It's important that education still is on the forefront, and that's what we're providing for our communities.
And I concur with my colleagues. In addition to the STEM, the thought leadership, the contributions in education, preparing that next generation of teachers who will prepare our students, nurses who are on the front line as we go through this global pandemic. But as the land grant institution for the state, we also provide the extension services to the community to make sure that they have access to knowledge and information that's not always readily available to them, how they preserve their farms, how they grow their crops, how they are able to contribute to the economic vitality of their respective communities. So the reach, the relevance, the impact of HBCUs continue to be needed now, will be needed in the future because we serve that niche. Our students leave with a level of confidence in their ability, in what they're able to do and how they're able to create and innovate and continue to contribute to this great nation and to the world.
Awesome. So, what are some of the challenges and disparities that HBCUs in Mississippi face? And either one of you can address that, if not all.
Well, there's a separation, and here, just looking at the 5 institutions here, we are, Dr. Taylor and I, we're from private institutions. So we certainly are starting off with much smaller budgets because we are private and we don't get the state support. But then you look at these other 3 wonderful institutions that are not funded at the level that they should be funded as a state institution. I'm a graduate of Mississippi State University. And when I walk on Mississippi State University's campus and I walk on Jackson State's campus, I can certainly see the difference. And I can't speak for President Hudson, but coming from a state system into a private system, there's certainly a big dearth of funding. And then I can possibly say for certain, and I know you guys will pick up the mantle and run with it, but I can say for certain we can see the difference in the type of funding that our state HBCUs get compared to other institutions.
Yes, and Dr. Walters really picked up on a big issue, which is our aging infrastructure. Really, the infrastructure around HBCUs, which is not unique to Mississippi HBCUs. This is a nationwide issue, but it impacts everyone, and we have a long history. You're right, of being underfunded. Most HBCUs, I think, on average, have about $67 million in deferred maintenance on their campus. And there hasn't been a comprehensive plan to date to really start to address those issues. We're seeing the beginning of that with the recent infrastructure bill passed by Congress. And certainly there are some efforts being made now within our state legislature to begin to address some of those disparities. But the fact remains that that is a big issue amongst HBCUs, just that aging infrastructure, deferred maintenance, those things that the philanthropic dollars that have been coming our way typically do not address. Typically, those dollars go for programmatic goals, scholarships, and other activities related to our academics. But place matters. Your physical plant matters. How do you support students without the physical plant needed to house them, to dine them? All of the different things that make up the overall student success continuum. So Dr. Walters really hit the nail on the head in terms of funding disparities. And I can really think of no other area where it shows up more dramatically and more visually than when you talk about the physical plan and the aging infrastructures of HBCUs.
Yeah, and definitely, I agree wholeheartedly that deferred maintenance and those type issues compound things for us because it creates an environment where when we are trying to recruit and attract students and they see the differences in those campuses, we have to do different things and really speak about the importance and relevance of what we're doing as opposed to having those beautiful buildings and that sort of thing. I always say, the old saying is, we know how to turn 15 cents into a dollar very, very, very easily because that's what we have to do because our campuses are impacted by that deferred maintenance concern. But again, that creates an environment where we have to do different things to impact and recruit students, understanding the relevance and importance of what we're doing as an institution. But that continues to be a challenge for us, particularly with those deferred maintenance type concerns.
Well, one other disparity that I would point out in that funding umbrella is the alumni support, not the support from their hearts, because our alums love our institutions, but the support from their wallets is not the same as what other institutions across the state experience. And that's all as a result of the history here in the United States. You look at stats about the differences between the wealth of Black households versus others, and that explains why we have not received, the same level of financial support from our alums. And then also, just I would say from philanthropy in general, we're seeing a new moment where other folks who traditionally have not given to HBCUs are now discovering them as a way to help to kind of level the playing field or address some of the challenges that were highlighted and revealed by the George Floyd murder. So that's a good thing that we're starting to see some folks moving in that direction. But I would argue that probably the general philanthropic community and corporate support has not been the same for HBCUs as it's been for other institutions of higher education.
Great.
And I concur with my colleagues. I would add most of our institutions are either in urban or rural settings, and that within itself brings about different or unique challenges, specifically for one that's in a rural setting, the lack of economic development in most of these areas that HBCUs are located. We love our Southwest corner. We are a strong anchor in that community. However, the lack of economic development directly impacts our ability to attract and retain students, faculty, and staff that contributes to our ability to continue to move the university forward. So as an HBCU, working with the need to work with the state to show the need for the state to also develop these areas and these regions where you have the HBCU so that we have the talent in and around our communities, that our faculty and our staff and our students have access to amenities and quality of life that ensures the continual growth of our institutions.
Great. I have a question that's been posed by the audience. What are the plans collectively to elevate the HBCU brand in Mississippi, especially when enrollments are dropping due to COVID-19 and et cetera?
So when you think about a collective plan, I think it's very different than if we were one system. You know, in Louisiana, there is the Southern University system. So it's 6 or 7 colleges that can have a collective plan. But we are individual colleges. I'm an independent college. I don't have a system. I only have a board. And the IHL has its board. Ivy has her board. So as these boards work with us as presidents, we try to uh, meet the goals and objectives of our own individual strategic plans, and trying to make sure that we stay connected, that we are partners, that we show everyone we are partners, but we really focus inwardly somewhat to make sure that we can meet the goals and objectives that our board has set forth for us. However, all of us are in organizations. We are a part of the United Negro College Fund organization, and my colleagues are part of the Thurgood Marshall organization. So now those organizations partner with us at state level, at federal level, where we go after dollars together. We go to the government to say, hey, we need more CARES Act dollars. So we have this collective act across the nation and in our state. But when it comes to enrollments and some of those local things that affect directly our institution, we work with our own boards, our own teams, and we partner with each other, but we collectively partner on the outside, but work inwardly. And I think this question is a wonderful question, but it also speaks to how we are lumped together as HBCUs. And when you're lumped together, it's hard to rise up and say, this college, Russ College or Tougaloo College or Mississippi Valley, this is what we are doing. However, a Mississippi State and Ole Miss, they're individual colleges to the world. But I'm not. I'm lumped in with every other HBCU. And while that's a good thing, it's very difficult to get around that when you're trying to show the specific things that you're doing at your institution, and not to be lumped in. So it's difficult for me to work with Thomas on what he's going to do about his enrollment. It's a different institution, it's a different environment, it's a different alumni, it's different. So that question is a great question because it really brings to bear what we deal with as HBCU leaders. I really cannot help Dr. Briggs work on his enrollment, right? I'm not in a position to do that. But we are working together collectively to challenge these issues in a more broader sense, at the 30-foot level, maybe I should say. I hope I've answered.
Well said, Dr. Walters. I would just briefly add that the question kind of begs whether or not there is an opportunity directed and supported by the right partners for us to do this. And I'm kind of putting on I used to be an elected official, so I'm putting on my policy hat for a minute. If the state of Mississippi deems it a priority to have more Black citizens obtain college degrees, then all the data shows that our institutions do a better job at graduating students than maybe some of the others. And so I could certainly see some benevolent entity might see some value in supporting, highlighting, and elevating us in order to achieve that important policy goal for the state.
So I
think
agree, but I would
ultimately,
just
I'm sorry.
I would just add, I think we all work together and we talk collectively about enrollment. But we also need to think about, there's a sweet spot for our campuses. There is such enrollment is something that's big on all of our performance metrics, but you growth has to also retain the quality of the educational experience that you are providing your students. It's important that when we bring a student in, we're able to meet the student where they are, provide them with the services that they need. So when they leave, they are prepared to go forth and be successful. although COVID has, highlighted or elevated some of our enrollment challenges, do know as HBCUs, we've been having enrollment concerns for some time. If we look specifically to the state of Mississippi, Mississippi is not growing. That's in
Right.
any number, but in particularly in terms of African American citizens, our graduation rate in our K-12 system is not where it needs to be. So our pool of students for the state is steadily declining in Mississippi and African Americans across the country. And so we have to think creatively, innovatively, collaboratively to come up with strategies that ensure we're able to not only meet but exceed our enrollment targets. But then I do think it's important that we think about that sweet spot because you don't want to lose the heart and soul of what the experience is that you're trying to capture or cultivate for your students. It's not just about getting a degree. It's about acquiring an education that's going to help propel you into higher levels of success.
At Jackson State, we recently released our strategic plan, which spoke just to that very thing about elevating the JSU brand, helping and using that as a tool to really cement our status as a 21st century hub of academic excellence and continuing along those lines. And so in that matter, when we talk about enrollment, when we talk about elevating the JSU brand, one of the best things we've done is really try to address affordability. For the last 2 years, we have held our tuition steady. We haven't gone up in tuition in an effort to try to really hit a certain spot as it relates to affordability for students, not pricing ourselves out of the market, which is very important as HBCUs that we do. A lot of us are tuition dependent. And so you rely on those tuition dollars, but at the same time, again, are you in a position where you're pricing some of your potential students out of the market, even with the limited availability that we're seeing? So that part is very important. But I also want to emphasize the fact that there are always opportunities to collaborate. Jackson State and Alcorn are participating in a $10 million grant that addresses nursing informatics for where Alcorn nursing students and Jackson State's College of Health Sciences partnering, to again collaborate on these very efforts. Looking at some of our out-of-state partners, we recently did an MOU with Morris Brown in which we're providing a pathway for their undergraduate students to attend JSU grad school and really easing those paths. Those things help our enrollment as well. So there are always opportunities for collaboration. It's just about being strategic. It's about working together. And as Dr. Walter said, we each have our own individual institutional goals, but we also have the collective goal for really enhancing the culture and educating African Americans. That's been our goal for 150 plus years. And we will really continue along those lines.
Yeah, and I would just want to say there's no written plan that we could share today on those collaborations because we're individual institutions. I collaborate with Dr. Nave on several projects, especially even around the rural piece that she spoke of. I collaborate, of course, with Jackson State on many programs, but there is not a plan. I'm launching my strategic plan, like Dr. Hudson is launching his, and that strategic plan is really going to put us in a position where we can grow enrollment, but we're looking at various ways to do that across the board, whether that's partnering with K-12, partnering with homeschools, partnering with our Hispanic population, our Native American population, because our institution, I always say, we are historically Black, but we're not exclusively Black. And so how do we grow our institution, as Dr. Nave talked about, with all of the shortages in our own culture? How do we grow our institutions around diversity? And that's a huge part of what our plan speaks about.
Sure. And I just wanted to add is, although we, I think, obviously we compete with each other from an enrollment standpoint, the united voice is opportunities like this that really speaks about the fact that HBCUs matter. So as those students are thinking about what college or university to attend, it's important that they first consider us, all of us, as an HBCU, for what we do for our communities, particularly for our African American communities. That's the united front as we talk about when students are looking at where they want to attend, understand that HBCUs definitely do matter. And we want to be considered in those opportunities.
Right.
And I just want to add one last thing. All of us have been on the Capitol these past 2 weeks, working with the legislature, and Thomas spoke about making sure that we have affordable options and opportunities for our students. But we have to be very honest and candid. Those infrastructure, those facilities, the technology that we talked about earlier, that costs money. The money has to come from somewhere. So it's important that as citizens of the state, that all of you great ladies of Delta Sigma Theta, your church members, that you work with us to lobby our legislatures to invest in K-12 so that we can increase the appropriations that's allocated to our institutions that allow us to keep our tuitions low and the cost of attendance to our institutions great.
This is all great information, and I'm sure our audience is taking advantage of all this. It's so much I've learned just from the conversation. Dr. Carmen Walters, that was awesome to hear about not having that self-identity or having individuality. I never thought about that. So all of these points you're making is so relevant, and I hope our participants are taking this in because it's great. Now I get the feeling that this is going to be a part two because the questions are coming in, and you guys have so much important information. But I do want to get to some of these questions because I know that these are very important. One of the questions asked, what are some of the ways that each president has influenced our newer generation to attend more of our HBCUs?
Well, I tell you, I'm thankful for the season we are in. People are talking about HBCUs every day. But one of the things my predecessor did, Dr. Beverly Wade Hogan, she started a high school on Tougaloo's campus. We had a high school many years ago, the Daniel Hand High School. And starting a high school on campus with 9th through 12th grade really gives those students who are on our campus every day, it's about 120 of them every day. They're in our classrooms with our faculty, taking our classes. It really helps them to understand the value of being in our environment. And so we have worked hard to grow that and to grow that niche. And although we allow other folks to come on our campus and talk to our high school students because we want to give them options, we have a partnership with the Jackson Public School District where those students who come through our high school get free tuition to be in our program. And that is a way for us to reach across the aisle to say to K-12, we are your partner. And so our faculty work along with their faculty, and it's a lab school, and that's an environment that we feel is futuristic. And I'm just like my other colleagues. Of course, we are looking at different types of programs on campus to give growth pipelines and growth opportunities to young people coming in. Everybody doesn't want to major in psychology, so you have to be very creative and think outside the box. And all of us are doing that. We're scratching and every day looking at data and working with our faculty who are the best and brightest. And we have not mentioned our faculty tonight, but all of us have some of the best and brightest faculty on our campuses doing research, partnering with hospitals, partnering with large companies, large corporations, providing this knowledge to our students. That is such a gift to the students because we couldn't afford to pay the faculty what they really deserve for the kind of work they're doing.
Right.
So I think that's some of the things that we are doing at Tougaloo to try to really engage that other population. And then finally, I'll be quiet. We are looking at different populations, not just educating K-12 people out of K-12, but we're looking at the adult mama who went to school years ago and had to stop out. We're looking at the adult daddy who's locked into, he can't leave Jackson to go anywhere else because he has a family. So we're looking at offering opportunities to all of those various groups.
Well, a lot of it is also marketing and making your institution open for those students who might not have otherwise considered a higher education as being within their wheelhouse. I talked about affordability earlier. We also have to talk about the evolving curriculum, meeting the moment as it relates to various disciplines. You hear us talk a lot about STEM. But you also have to talk about things like supply chain, which is very much at the forefront of today's time. And that's a program Jackson State will be rolling out this coming fall. Social media, has created the need in an entirely new industry that did not necessarily exist 10 years ago. So how are we how's our curriculum, evolving to meet that moment, to really meet the challenges of what students need today? That's really the most important thing. Students want outcomes. They want to know that after I'm done here, going through your institution, what will be the outcome? How will my life be better? How will our lives be changed? Just like all of ours was changed by virtue of our interactions with our respective institutions. We have to do a much better job marketing and really showing students the value of that HBCU education. That is the most important thing we can do as leaders as it relates to that upcoming generation and really helping to keep that educational attainment at the forefront of everything that we're doing.
Right.
And I think if I could also, one important thing is exposing our younger students to the college environment sooner. And I think we're all doing some aspects of that. I know, similar to Dr. Walters, we have a similar program here at Valley where we have a high school partnership with the Greenville school districts, where we have 70 students, high school students, who are on our campus every day taking classes, their high school classes, but also college classes at the same time, but also exposing students through that dual enrollment opportunities, really connecting them to a university and what a university will be like before they get to the point of actually being at a university. Is something that's just so important, because if you're exposed to something, then maybe you may consider I can do this. I've seen the campus, I'm on the campus, and it's really making a difference for me, even now that I'm in high school. And now we're looking at maybe even offering similar opportunities for those even before high school. So it's really about exposing our students to the importance of education, but understanding that they can do this and they can be successful in that regard.
Right. So you mentioned partnerships, and so tell me a little bit, has there been a conversation between Russ and Jackson State for a 3+2 program?
We have not had that conversation, very much open to that conversation. I must say, Russ College, being right there in the backyard of Ole Miss and Holly Springs and Oxford, that proximity just really makes it a natural. But we're always open to partnerships with all our institutions. It's just that natural fit in terms of supporting each other and really creating those better outcomes for our students. But I certainly applaud Dr. Taylor for that Ole Miss partnership. I was talking to Ole Miss's chancellor once it was announced, and I just think it's just a wonderful opportunity for us college students, and it's a wonderful opportunity for Ole Miss to really help bridge that gap when you talk about those STEM programs. So definitely kudos to Dr. Taylor for that partnership, and we're always open to really any partnership that helps elevate all universities and advance all of our common educational goals.
Yes, thank you, President Hudson, for that. Yes, we agree that the geographic proximity increases our chances of success, because it'll give us an opportunity to actually get the students used to being on the campus of Ole Miss before they actually have to go there. And Ole Miss had shared that some of their other partnerships were not successful for that very reason, the geographic disparities. But I also just want to say that I'm open to any potentials and possibilities. And I think one area of excellence at Jackson State is where I got my training, which is urban planning. So I'd love to see more Black urban planners working in our municipalities to improve our cities. So if there's a way that we could partner to get more Russ students to get into urban planning there at Jackson State, then I'm all ears.
I bet there are others that are excited about those opportunities as well.
Absolutely.
So can we, and again, I know there are a lot of questions, and I'm going to try to condense so that we will try to answer as many as we can. But there's a question that asks what are the common misconceptions people have about HBCUs and how can we combat these misconceptions and communicate more effectively the purpose of our schools?
I want to jump in and say that really the worthiness and the value of our product, the degrees that we offer. An engineer at Jackson State has the same accreditation, has to go through just as rigorous a curriculum. We have the same employers, coming to us recruiting out of our institutions as a Mississippi State or any of the other larger majority institutions. So it's very important that we never, ever undervalue our own degree by assuming that an HBCU degree is less than. We're all SAC COC accredited on this call. And that's the same accreditation all institutions in this area has, whether they're majority African-American, HBCU, white, whatever. And we must never undervalue our degree. We must also understand that when it comes to where you want to be, one of our mottos here at Jackson State is become the person who you are meant to be. And what that means is whatever your life's goals, whatever you're trying to achieve, you can do that right here at Jackson State University. You can do that from Rusk College, Tougaloo, Mississippi Valley State, Alcorn State University, if you're willing to work hard and put in the work. We will provide you the tools, the infrastructure, and the system that will allow you to thrive in your life's work. So just to put a pin on it, never, ever undervalue an HBCU degree. That's probably the biggest misconception that I've dealt with as it relates to our HBCUs. And it is totally false. And it's something we must always fight that narrative.
Yes,
Wow,
I would
don't think
echo
we could
that
say
as
it any
well.
better.
Yes, well, let me just add this onto it then. When I share with folks the, top-notch quality that our schools provide, I share with them that, I graduated from Ivy League school. And I think about when I was in my early 20s, returning home to my hometown, and I had some peers who attended HBCUs. Their level of confidence and their focus just far surpassed. I mean, really, my school kind of beat me down. I limped to the finish line. And these young people who graduated from HBCUs, they left ready to conquer the world. And they received a great education as well. So that's the personal spin that I put on it as far as the wonderful quality of academic experience that is provided at HBCUs.
Okay.
And I concur with my colleagues. And as Thomas talked about people undervaluing HBCUs, I would say they also undervalue HBCU graduates. And they don't always acknowledge or recognize that the students who graduate from our institutions are awesome. A lot of the inventions, the technology, the innovations that they're coming into contact with that have been developed over history were developed or created by HBCU graduates. If just think about the world without an HBCU.
Without us.
You're talking to people that know.
Right.
You're talking to us that know. We realize. Yes.
It's undervaluing the institution and undervaluing or underestimating
Right.
the HBCU graduate that in 2022, you would think we would be past that, but we're not.
So what are the most useful resources that you would recommend to prospective high school students that are looking to gain a better perspective on HBCUs at Ed?
I want to answer that question, but I would like to add one more point about one of the challenges for us, and that is when people are giving to HBCUs, we've gotten some federal dollars through the CARES Act. And people are confusing those dollars. They're on social media saying, what are they doing with all of that money? And we're saying it's not all of that. That's first thing. Half of it is going to the students, but then it's so prescriptive for what we can do. I specifically remember a meeting we were on with the federal government when President Hudson was saying, now, if I wanted to fix this with these dollars, he gave them a specific example. Could I do that with these dollars? And they were like, no, sir, you cannot do that with these dollars. So it's that misconception out there that we are getting all of this money. And for our private institutions, there are about 4 of them that's getting the money. We got 37 private So that's a misconception. We're not getting a lot of money. It's not enough. We can't do what we need to do with it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as another of those misconceptions.
Awesome.
And I plan to keep asking that very question, by the way, Carmen, until I get a yes.
Yes, thank you.
It is a need, and you're absolutely right. But that is very true. I can just only echo what you said. That part is very pertinent about the perception and the misconception, if you will, about monies and philanthropic efforts and how that's trickling down to the various institutions.
Right. That is great information. So with that in mind, can you tell us a little bit about, and I've heard you say, of course, it's just not the contribution that we get from our legislature that's sufficient. And this is why campaigns of such, what we're doing tonight is important. And so listeners, I hope that you are taking all this information in, and I hope you're donating out there on our line, because it is so important. And with it in mind, I know we have a couple more minutes to continue to ask these important questions. I'd like to ask, how can HBCUs increase alumni donation rates in order to help with the effort of funding our institutions?
Just by focusing on it, really publicizing that data. One thing that I've really made an intentional effort, and I'll continue to do so in the future, is publicizing that APR, the annual giving rate of our alumni, and how do you increase that number? How do you get your alumni to be counted? Jackson State has over 50,000 alumni, and if all of them gave, it would be a game changer for the institution. I'm sure that's the case with all of our HBCUs. So how do we get when you look at the top institutions, their alumni giving rates, 35, 45% of their alumni give. How do we get to that level? And so really it's just about standing up and being counted, educating our alumni on what it means to give and what true giving is, and understanding what do those dollars mean and how do those dollars trickle down to the students, being good stewards over our gifts, and just focusing on those efforts. So it's just going to take a really intentional effort to educate and then push and promote giving amongst our alumni. It's not how much you give, it's that you stand up and be counted.
That's right.
And I just want to say that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on, Dr. Nave.
Oh, I concur with Dr. Hudson, in particular on the education side, helping them understand that as we present our case and we lobby other foundations, other boards, other philanthropic organizations, one of the first questions they're going to ask, what are your alumni giving? And if we're talking about a 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, less than 10% giving rate compared to, as Thomas mentioned, our white counterparts at 35, 40, and 50, they're going to ask the question, why should we invest in you if your own graduates won't invest in your institution? So we have to be make sure that we're educating, that we're finding creative and seamless ways for our alums to give. Sometimes we make it too complicated. They have to go through too many steps to give the dollars, and truly driving home the point that Thomas made that, we're all at different stations in life at different times. So it's not about how much you give, but that you give continuously and you give often. Because it is those resources and the support, not just in scholarships, but in other areas that really allow the institution to be successful.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be transparent and frank. If you look at our endowments at HBCUs compared to other types of institutions, it's not good. And really getting the alumni bases and others to see that look at what this institution's endowment is and how did they get to that. Most of that was built from the alumni base. So just really enforcing the importance of building that those opportunities to build those endowments, that talks about the institution being grounded for decades. That's important. And that's really one thing that I think as we talk about the message about giving, we need to really focus on really building something that will be sustainable for decades and decades going forward.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you said that. We have made a concerted effort to really increase our endowment by educating our alums. Our alums are so supportive, and they do so well at Tougaloo. But we know, I say this corny thing, Dr. Nave, the room for improvement is the largest room in the world. So we're always pushing for our alums to do more. I agree with Thomas that you don't have to give the $1,000 every month. You can give something, give $10, give $20. Just be the consistent giver so you can help us grow our numbers. But I do want to say, go back home, talk to your spouses, look at your insurance forms, go in and leave 5% to your college, 10% to your college. You can give your grandchildren the 40 and the 50 and all of that, but leave something for your college, because it is the endowment that is going to sustain our institutions. We can do all of the programs we want to, but if our endowments aren't strong, that's going to be a two-legged stool. That endowment is the third leg. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Dr. Briggs. That is one of the most important differences between us and some of our larger institutions who have success. And our alums, you're doing a great job, but we need you to push a little harder.
As well as our community too, huh? But would you
Yes.
have extend that same charge to our community?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I know we're getting down to the hour, and I know I said 7:00. I do understand that we have until 7:15, and I hope you all okay with that. But we are going to try to get those last couple of questions in, because I think our group out there, I understand that the calls are coming in, and I think they're really being energized by the knowledge that they're attaining tonight. So you all are doing a wonderful job. So with that, I think we really need to answer this question. According to the statistical information regarding our HBCUs, can you, describe the following focus areas? There are a couple of them: enrollment, demographics, graduation rates, and the final support for the university or any certain departments. And I know that was lengthy. Again, if you could address those areas in enrollment, demographics, graduation rates, and your financial support for your university.
Well, I like to address graduation rates in particular, because I think that's one of the areas of improvement amongst our HBCUs. When you talk about student debt, which is really a big buzzword, it's on the minds of everyone. What we want to make sure as HBCUs is that we're not a driver of student debt, particularly that debt held by students who did not obtain a degree. And so what that means is becoming a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, increasing our graduation rates and really making vast improvements in that area. That's one of those areas, again, of focus that we have to continue to improve upon. You never want to have those vulnerabilities where they can attack your request for funding by pointing to certain statistics that may not be as favorable. So at Jackson State, as part of our strategic plan, we have a goal to dramatically increase our graduation rate. We want to continue to show that competitiveness. Again, we have over 50,000 alumni. We want even more of them. And the only way we're going to continue to thrive into the future is to really focus on improving those outcomes, starting with the graduation rate. That student success continuum from first contact to when they get that degree, to graduate school, professional school, or the job of the profession or the career of their dreams. We have to be better at making sure we guide those students along that continuum. And that is a great effort here at Jackson State University that we're undertaking.
And let me just add, I think one thing that we're doing here at Valley is we have a strategic enrollment plan, which speaks about the fact that just don't come to the university, come to graduate. And we know that there are a lot of different things that happen as a student matriculates, but really have that focus on the experience, understanding that as you matriculate at a university, you don't want to amass debt, and then when you leave, that debt is still with you. It's even more compounded now. So really having that strategic focus that speaks about beginning, but assuring that you finish, even if there's some gaps in that. We reach out to those students who stopped out to say, hey, look, okay, now we know you're still there. Let's come back and let's finish. And so that's part of the strategy building that retention and persistence, which leads to that graduation rate. And that's important. So that's one of our major focuses here at Valley, is that strategic enrollment efforts.
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to add, Ms. Tucker, we have to look at that data and disaggregate it, right? So you got to look at the 6-year graduation rate and the 4-year graduation rate, and all of us know that our 6th-year graduation rate is so much higher than our 4-year. So that lets us know it's taking longer for our students to get through this process. So we have to really look at how do we do this persistence and retention, as he just talked about, that stopping out, the persistence, having to go half time because you got to go to work, having to go half time because you had a baby too soon. And all of those things matter when students are graduating and being persistent. So when we look at persistence and retention and graduation rates, we got to break it all out. And we got to talk about, now, are you talking about mothers? You're talking about working folks? You're talking about people straight out of K through 12? So those rates can be very different. And before we go, I have to say this. My board chair is texting me to say, tell all the presidents they will be invited to Ingalls to talk with him about internships and scholarships and all of that with Ingalls Shipbuilding. So I have to say that because he's texting me. Make sure you tell them.
Uh-oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
So we're about to wrap up here in just a minute. We'll allow each one of you an opportunity to give any lasting thoughts. But there's a specific question to Dr. Nave, and that question says, they'd like you to share with everyone the role of the Farmers and Ranchers Policy Center on a regional and national level. So if you can do that very quickly, I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. It is a effort that was birthed out of the Farm Bill that has had major support, and the water was carried by Congressman Benny Thompson, that we all know has done exceptional things for our university, but is housed at Alcorn State University. But it represents all the 1890s institutions to really focus on looking at the inequities, the disparities, and ways to address those for our Black, African American, and socially disadvantaged farmers or ranchers across this state. So they conduct research, state-of-the-art research, policy research. They work with the Farm Bill. They work with Congress. We've been engaged in some of these equity commissions and providing feedback and comment to make sure that as policies and as we're beginning to look at how our Black farmers and ranchers, whether that's in their land being taken from them, working with different states to come to policies and resolutions that are more equitable for our Black farmers. We've lost so much ground in terms of the land that we own and the Black farmers. And so our policy center works. We have a partnership with Tougaloo. We've worked with Jackson State, along with the other 1890 institution, and doing some really fantastic and phenomenal work in that area. It's led by our executive director, Lois Spates, and she has a phenomenal team and partners really, really well to do some phenomenal work and even greater work going through. So right now they're working on the next Farm Bill and making sure that language is where it needs to be, and we're continuing to address those issues.
Awesome. And we have less than about 5 minutes. So if I could, for the rest of you, if you could get maybe a 1-minute wrap up of anything pertinent you felt like you omitted and you'd like to say at this time before we wrap up.
Well, I can jump in and just share that you talked about what's the best way, what's the most useful resource to recommend to high school students to kind of gain a better perspective on these schools. And that's to visit. And we've got a preview day coming up at Russ College on February 16th. So I want to extend an invitation. Please go to our website and register and come down and visit us. We'd love to welcome you to Bearcat Country. But it's certainly a privilege to work with these wonderful leaders at the various institutions. And I just am inspired every day, by the work that we do. And I know that we're making a difference. We've been making a difference here at Russ for 155 years and all the respective schools for the tenure that they've been around. But that impact has not been lessened. And if anything, the last couple of years have showed us that there's even more opportunity for HBCUs to have a positive impact on American society.
Awesome. All right.
And I concur. Visit Alcorn State University. We have a number of activities, whether there are sporting events, preview days, or just come for a regular visit. You will see us moving across the state, visiting high schools, and introducing the kids, K-12, as well as community college and adult learners, to the wonderful opportunities that are present at Alcorn. I do want to add that the Policy Center also partners with community leaders, the Federation, and different entities to work on behalf of those farmers. And lastly, I leave, as we talked about the graduation rates, persistence, and all of that, we're going to have to revisit what that looks like as a result of this global pandemic. Education, there has been an educational disruption that is going to filter through for a number of years to come. So there's continues to be more work, and it's going to be our HBCUs that have to be on the front line for our African American kids.
Oh, thank you.
That's
All
right.
right.
And I'd say, in closing, for me, I'd say I am Mississippi Valley State University. Again, the educational oasis here in the Mississippi Delta. And the university motto, our motto is live for service. And what does that mean? That means the importance of doing what? Giving back. We tell our students all the time, we all owe somebody or somebody's something. Those who paved the way for us to be sitting here today, it's important to always remember. So that live for service really is reflective about what our institution is, what we do, and the value that we bring to our communities. So please come visit the educational oasis of the Mississippi Delta, Mississippi Valley State University.
All right. So,
Well, I thank you all again for this opportunity. I thank certainly my colleagues for their insight. This has been a very great call. This has been a wonderful opportunity just to hear from you all. And look, we invite you to Jackson State University. We invite you to visit our campus. We invite you to visit us online. Again, for 144 years, we started to do two things, educate teachers and preachers. And we're still educating the top educational leaders, your top ministers, but we're also educating your doctors, your lawyers, your engineers. And we look forward to it. We're proud of that legacy, and we look forward to continuing to serve in that capacity. So again, thank you all so much. This has been very enjoyable, and let's continue to do this great work together.
thank you. And finally, Dr. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much to the Delta Sigma Theta organization. We support what you're doing. Anything we can do at our institution to help your mission, your goals, your values and objectives, just let us know. We will be there. I do want to say to every mother and father who's listening today, and if there are any students listening, I often talk about what Bill Clinton's mother told him once he saw President Kennedy talking on TV. He said, "Mama, I want to do that. I want to be the president." And she walked to her front door. She opened it and she stood on the porch and she said to him, "The road from here can take you anywhere you want to go." And that's what I say about Tougaloo College. The road from Tougaloo College can take you anywhere you want to go. And I have proof for that. The first Black justice in the state of Mississippi, Judge Anderson. We look at every day Congressman Thompson fighting justice, fighting for justice for the United States of America. That is our alum. We look at Derek Johnson fighting for justice with our NAACP leader. We look at this every day, and that's not just happening at Tougaloo. That's happening at all of our institutions.
All
So
right.
I invite you to take a look at all of us. Go tour and make us the college of first choice.
All right. We have less than a minute. And so, have we heard from everyone? All right. Well, thank you all so much. Again, it's been a wonderful opportunity just to hear your insight and all of your plugs. So I've learned quite a bit myself. And so on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, let this be an item that you display, letting you know the impact that you've had on our participants tonight. It's wonderful. I read it, but for the sake of time, you all will get one of these. It will be delivered to you. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity. So due to the fact that we are to the hour, I'd like to defer to our chapter president, Ms. Gwen Handy. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
think you're muted. You're muted. I think you're muted.
Mute. Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you
Right.
so much. On behalf of the Jackson, Mississippi Alumnae Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we would like to say thank to Mr. Hudson, Dr. Taylor, Dr. Bridge, Dr. Walters, and Dr. Nave for your outstanding and multitude of information that was shared tonight. These 5 outstanding Mississippi HBCU presidents have participated as panelists for our virtual hall on discussing the importance of the HBCU in the African American community. So we say thank you. We would also like to thank our sponsors, the National Scholarship and Standards Committee of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, the Women's Foundation of Mississippi, and of course, Renaissance Bank for granting Jackson, Mississippi Alumnae Chapter funds to support this initiative. Let us also say thank you. I can't leave my collegiate chapters out. Our Delta collegiate chapters, Delta Epsilon at Alcorn State University, and of course, Delta Pi on Jackson State University campus for their support and participation in this campaign. We have to also include, remember, we must include those young people in everything that we do. So we're asking those of you who are either on Facebook and Twitter and media and everything, I'm asking the technology people to please go ahead and put back in the chat. We ask that you please click on the link in the chat to go ahead and make a donation to the Mississippi HBCU of your choice. You don't have to stop at 1. You have 5 or all 5. We are not asking you to just do Jackson State or Valley or Tougaloo Russ. We're asking you to do all 5 if that's your wish. The campaign is live, people. We're live. And of course, as of today, I just got a note, presidents, that we have raised over $5,000. And yes, that applaud. So just keep giving. The campaign is live and kicking, as I would say, as the kids would say, we still kicking. And we will be receiving donations until May 31st, 2022. So of course, let me emphasize again, let's support our HBCU. I can say myself, I graduated from DI Love. My best friend she attended Tougaloo College. Yay. And of course, I am from the Alcorn area. So my classmates was at Alcorn. And one of my good buddies that I talked to Alcorn, every day, attended Valley State University. So we are a team. We're working together. And I really believe we are better together. So again, thanks so much for your support. And we do look forward to hearing from you again. And of course, talking to you again. You all be blessed. I'll turn it back over to Shirley Tucker to see exactly if she has anything else for us to do. Be blessed. Be blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nothing else on my end other than the fact that I want to encourage everyone to please give toward a worthy cause, and we'll all reap the benefits. Thank you again. I want everybody to have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to a part 2. This was interesting. Thank you all for your time again, and have a great evening.
Thank you.